going to do a small kirtan to introduce our study today, and perhaps I'll do it each time. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Shri Shri Guru Garanga Ganhavika Giridhari Radha Vinod Vihari Ju Ki Jai. Satchinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai. Radha Vinod Ju Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Amasto Tarasara Shishimad Shila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Amasto Tarasara Shishimad Shila Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Amasto Tarasara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Mahabhagavat Shila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Shila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Arupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Ananta Gota Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Taralaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Gurudev. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazar Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazar Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazar Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. And all the Vaishnav and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, and all our illustrious Rupa Nuga Guru Vargya, my Dandavat pranams to all. So, continuing with our study of Jaiva Dhamma and reading Falshruti, someone was commenting that they found it strange that someone should say that if you don't read this particular book, then you can't practice Shuddha Bhakti. If you're not inclined to read this, you can't practice pure Bhakti. But just to qualify this, Shuddha Bhakti is beyond material dharmas. And if we look at other religions of the world, Christian, Muslim, etc., they're predominant, then we see the degree or extent of dharma within those religions. And Islam in particular has been unpacked by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the 11th chapter. And we saw the limitations in the mullah's understanding of Thakurji, etc., and how can a form represent God. This was what the whole chapter was about, chapter 11. So they haven't been blessed with the mercy to understand the form of the Lord. And the same in Christianity also. They don't have a clear representation of who is God, what he looks like, etc. They just represent that prophet nailed on a cross. That's how they have the representations in all the different churches and so on. So they don't have the form. Therefore, they only have a part of the eternal truth. They have the part of prayer. And that prayer is generally for their own welfare. Give me my daily bread, etc. It's not in the mood of pure service. Please, dear Lord, give me service. So as far as Vaishnava Dharma, Jaiva Dharma, Sanatan Dharma, these religions don't really come very close. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, whatever is beneficial, whatever is dharmic within these religions, then that has come from the original Vedic source. That's where it must have come from. There is only one principal Veda, one source of knowledge. And ultimately, this is Krishna, is that ultimate source of knowledge, the Lord himself. So he has given this knowledge. So when Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, for example, one who does not read Jaiva Dharma can never attain bhakti, pure devotional service, where else does it exist outside of the Vaishnava precepts and tenets? Where else is devotional service enumerated? It's not enumerated. Most consider myself and they're just wanting their own welfare, or they're praying for the various welfares of their mother or their father or different countries, situations, etc. All very worldly. It's not because they don't have knowledge. And when Bhaktivinoda Thakur is writing this book, he knows that he's an instrument completely of all the condensed philosophies in existence, manifesting originally from the Supreme Lord. He's there and he's making these claims of how special and wonderful is this Jaiva Dharma, because he himself considers this most wonderful. He doesn't consider himself on the ego platform one little bit. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a Mahabhagavat. He's a completely liberated Nitya Siddha Parshad, totally. Kamala Manjari. He's from the spiritual world. What purpose would he have to proclaim his own material, egotistical greatness in any form whatsoever? And we see also throughout many of the scriptures, like Prabhu was just saying before, the Chaitanya Bhagavat. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, many times Vrindavan Das Thakur, he will be glorifying particular sequences and saying, if you read this sequence regularly, then the benefit, the fruit will manifest in this way. Srimad Bhagavatam is the same. When you read the pastime of Varahadev, it says at the end, the Falshruti is that so much success in all material activities will manifest if you read this description of Lord Varaha with great faith. It's saying all the way through the Bhagavatam exactly the same mood. And it's like in Jayadev Goswami's Gita Govinda. He's also glorifying this so much. He's saying there are so many poets in the court of King Akbar, and none of them, all of them are good, and they're all considered jewels, but none of them as good as Jayadev, because he knows that he's not the poet. He's just the instrument that is being empowered by Govinda Dev to actually give this truth. They're not on this, but a conditioned soul doesn't appreciate that. And they might consider, oh, why is he just puffing himself up from his, nothing to do, not even a smell of that. That would mean he's a conditioned soul. If you had a personal agenda. So this Falshruti is not even remotely on that material, mundane sort of platform. It's Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He's glorifying the condensed ontological truths of all dharma in existence. He's enumerating specifically this Dasamula. And these are the very pillars, the cornerstones of all religions and philosophies. But they transcend all material religions and philosophies. And a religion is material if it doesn't have a description, at least, of the form and nature and qualities of the Supreme Lord. How can you love the Lord if you don't know what he looks like, if you don't know what his activities are, if you don't know where he lives, if you don't know anything about his background? How can you develop a relationship with him? You can't. So it's very limited. Actually, Christianity and Islam, they're described as Kali Yuga religions. They never existed prior to Kali Yuga. They weren't in the histories beyond past 5,000 years back. They were never there. They're just recent religions to carry men through to have some faith in something beyond here. But as far as the depth of their descriptions, it's very, very limited. So we'll start off with verse 11 today. Jaiva Dhamma Pateshe Shuddha Bhakti Hoy, Jaiva Dhamma Napadile Kabe Bhakti Noy.
One who reads Jaivadan with faithful deliberation will surely attain Shuddha Bhakti. But one who does not read Jaivadan can never attain Bhakti.
Because Jaiva Dhamma is the condensed teachings specifically of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And who is Mahaprabhu? He's Krishna himself. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Hladinisha. He's directly Krishna himself. So these condensed teachings, and they're not only teachings of Mahaprabhu specifically, they're all the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, of Chaitanya Charitamrita, of Chaitanya Bhagavat, of Bhagavad Gita. all the Upanishads, everything is actually condensed here. And the principles, the stepping stones of this Dasamula, they represent all religions on earth. And if we don't have faithful support for this, how can we possibly attain the highest degree of devotion? You can't. Can a Muslim attain the highest degree of devotion if he doesn't even acknowledge that Allah has a form? That means it's only the Brahman, basically, where they have their focus on. And Christianity is the same. They don't have, I've read with the Christian mystics and so on, they don't go very much beyond that. They talk about Adam and Eve, but that's not about God. They never have a revelation. And the moods of their service to God is usually a service to humanity. They think that by doing good things to people, that's serving God. That's not necessarily serving God. Serving God is following what the Lord wants. Yes, bro.
It is Zoroastrian. They
Huh?
take it from Zoroaster.
From what?
Zoroaster. To do good things, it comes from Zoroastrians. Zoroaster.
From what?
Zoroastrians.
Zoroastrians. Okay.
No,
Yes.
I mean Persians, ancient Persian. Zoroaster.
Zoroaster. Z-O.
Oh, Zoroastrians.
Yeah,
Okay.
good things, good deeds, bad deeds.
Yeah, yeah.
He was first.
Yeah, well, many uneducated people here in India, in Delhi, for example, they believe the same thing, that this karmic cycle is what they want to actually improve on, because they don't have the full fund of knowledge. They don't have this Dasamula clearly explained to them. They actually, because they want something here, this is why. It's very simple to understand. The conditioned soul, he can't reach his consciousness outside of his conditioned self unless he meets somebody who's already outside that sphere. This is called sadhu sangha. Unless you reach someone who's out of the well, you can't possibly come to this truth, because this truth, it will just stay spinning around in the material considerations. It won't actually reach or even remotely come to transcendence and the spiritual shaktis, etc. It can't. It can't without the connection from that spiritual realm touching us. It's not a material thing. And we tend to put our material conceptions over the spiritual. What we hear, it's got to fit my material conception. That's because there's no faith in this achintya bhav, this astonishment mood, something that is beyond my tiny little brain, completely beyond. Yes, I don't know what is the truth. So this is actually symptomatic of the natural pride of the conditioned souls in their own intelligence, etc., and everything relating to their intelligence, rather than saying, yes, I have nothing, I know nothing, let me accept the word of the sadhu, let me accept the word of that transcendental soul. It's only in that condition that we can rise out.
Rupanuga abhiman pathe druda hoy, Jaiva dharma vimukha ke dharma hi na koi. Faithfully reading Jaiva Dharma will surely strengthen one's abhiman as Rupanuga, follower of Sri Rupa Goswami. One who is averse to reading Jaiva Dharma is certainly devoid of religious principles.
Of course, they're devoid of religious principles if they don't want to actually understand who is Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami is the number one representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's the one who is carrying the entire teachings of Mahaprabhu. Him and Sanatana Goswami, all the Goswamis, all are Rupanuga Guru Vargya. They are carrying these teachings. If we are averse to that, then what hope do we have for reaching transcendence?
Yava jivane je pade jaiva dharma, bhaktiman se jnana vrita jnana karma.
One who faithfully reads Jaiva Dharma throughout his entire life will be endowed with bhakti and will surely realize the futility of Gyan and Karma.
Gyan and karma, they make up the qualities or activities of this world. Gyan, if it's carried to its highest extent, it comes to moksha. And even in a sense, that is material because it's just liberating you from the material suffering. But it's not indicating the activity of the soul. Moksha doesn't leave you with an understanding of what is the activity of your spirit soul. It doesn't direct you to the groves of Vrindavan and how to perform seva to Radha and Krishna, to the Brijbasis, etc. Moksha simply is a liberated condition from this material onslaught of suffering, where you come to a place of like Shantaras, like nirvana. So this is the goal of Gyan, and karma is a fruitive activity. I'm thinking, because the jiva wants to be happy. So first of all, he thinks that I'll be happy by acquiring more material prosperity. That'll make me happy. And then a higher stage, I'll be happy the more I understand my mind, etc., and how to be freed from these suffering encumbrances. That is mukti. So Gyan and karma, both of them. What's that? Pischachi, bhukti, mukti, prihas, pischachi yavat, vartate. That these two witches, bhukti, mukti, spriha yavat, pischachi, vartate. These two witches of Maya, Gyan, mukti, and bhukti, material enjoyment, and mukti. They're both in the same quality, in a sense, that they're like witches, and they can distract us from true vision for transcendence. Mukti, bhukti, spriha javat, pischachi, vartate. This Rupa Goswami has written this. So yes, the futility of Gyan and karma, he's compared them to witches.
Krishna Ramala Seva Labi Sainara Seva Sukhe Magna Rahe Sada Krishna Para.
Such a man, being fully devoted to Shri Shri Radha Krishna Yugal Kishore and having attained their Amal Prem Seva, remains forever merged in the bliss of such immaculate loving service.
So this is the final conclusion. This is the pure bhakti path. This is the conclusion of bhakti. Bhakti is not like Gyan or karma. It's not like looking for goals in this material world. It's not like anything else. Nothing else in existence can be compared to pure devotion that is described by Rupa Goswami. Nothing. Falshruti ki jai, Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Okay, now we come to our momentous 16th chapter. I'm saying momentous because for me personally, this chapter has been a great, great inspiration, because the last chapter, the last two chapters, were so extraordinarily clear about the tattva and siddhanta. What is Shakti tattva? Who is Shaktiman? What does Krishna possess? If he doesn't have any Shakti, what is he left with? And he's left with freedom, and he's left with free will. These 2 points. This is Krishna. So this is all being described in the 14th chapter. And in the 15th chapter, what we've just completed, the last part, was the distinction between Ishvara and the Jiva. If the sadhak can really appreciate the absolute distinction, then he can never try to smear his own conception over that of Ishvara's, because he is so tiny and that Ishvara is so great. But even though that is the situation, still the jiva can come close to Krishna in the most sweetest loving relationship. Even though Krishna he allows himself to be controlled by love. So we were understanding Krishna Tattva, as well as Vibhinamsa Tattva, because that was the title of last chapter 15, the Jiva Tattva, and we were understanding that. So now we're coming to the jivas possessed by Maya, and this particular chapter is very, very illuminating from many perspectives. So we'll continue here. This is chapter 16, Prameya, jivas possessed by Maya. Having heard the illuminating description of Jiva Tattva in Dasamula, Brajnath returned home. Lying on his bed, he was unable to sleep, and he began to reflect deeply. I have received an answer to the question, who am I? Yes, this question is so important. Who am I? Personally, we have these 5 gross elements. Then there are the 5 subtle elements. And then beyond that, there is the spiritual realm. So we have that Sthul Sarya, then we have the Linga Sarya, the subtle self, and then beyond that subtle self, when that subtle self has been fully purified, then we become eligible to actually be in touch fully with our soul, with our principal spiritual self. And that must be understood as what is the activity of the soul, and the soul's activity is service to the Supreme. That mood of affection and love should be increasing in the sadhak when he hears these descriptions, to give him the potency to actually cross over these hurdles of material misconceptions. Having heard the illuminating description of Jiva Tattva in Dasamula, Brajnath returned home. Lying on his bed, he was unable to sleep, and he began to reflect deeply. I have received an answer to the question, who am I? Now I can understand myself to be simply an atom of light in the effulgent rays of the spiritual sun, Sri Krishna. Although atomic by nature, I have my own inherent value, purpose, knowledge, and a drop of spiritual bliss. Bindu Chid Jagat Anand. So it's not void. He's not talking about being void here. Not at all. My Swarup is a spiritual particle, Chit Karna. Even though that form is atomic, it is like Sri Krishna's human-like form. Very beautiful, huh? Now, I cannot see this form, and this is my misfortune. Only an extremely fortunate soul can realize it. It is important that I understand clearly why I suffer in this unfortunate condition. Yeah, why have I been distracted from this amazing opportunity to actually realize my spiritual identity? What is it that's been holding me back all my life? This is what's going to be described in the chapter. Tomorrow I will inquire about this from Sri Gurudev. Thinking thus, he finally fell asleep, and around midnight, before dawn, he dreamt he had left his family and accepted Vaishnava dress. Then he awoke. When he awoke, he joyfully thought, it appears that Krishna will soon pull me out of this samsara. So sometimes the dress will help us and support our determination to step away from general conditioned life. If we're wearing the traditional dress, why did Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada encourage us to wear this dress? It's because he wanted to put us some distance, even externally. That's where it begins, between the general run of people who are only interested in fulfilling their own desires. Whereas the dramatic difference of the Vaishnava is that he wants to serve the Lord with all his self, with all his heart. He just wants to bring pleasure to Radha and Krishna in some capacity. So it's completely different. It's totally different. There's no similar. So to have the dress distinction can be very supportive of that. So he had in his dream, he accepted the Vaishnava dress. When he awoke, he joyfully thought, it appears that Krishna will soon pull me out of this samsara. The next morning, while he was sitting on the porch, some students approached him. Offering their respects, they said, "For a long time you have taught us very nicely, and under your guidance we have learnt many profound subject matters pertaining to Nyaya. We hope that you will now instruct us in Nyaya Kushumanjali." So these were his previous students. With great humility, Brajanath replied, "My dear brothers, I am unable to teach you any more, for I cannot fix my mind on teaching at all. I have decided to take another path. Under these circumstances, I suggest that you study under the guidance of some other teacher." When they heard this, the students became unhappy, but since there was nothing they could do, gradually, one by one, they began to leave. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had exactly the same experience. He stopped teaching those students because all he could do was teach his Vyakarana, the Sanskrit, etc., was in terms of being related to Krishna. Everything Mahaprabhu was saying in Navadvip at the end of his teaching time was only in relationship to Krishna. So he couldn't go into the various discussions that were separate from Krishna, which students like to actually take up, exercise their logic, their brilliance of their minds, and so on. So Mahaprabhu was not into that at all, of course. And now Brajanath is reflecting that mood. About that time, Sri Chatubhuj Mishra Gataka came to the house to present a proposal to Brajanath's paternal grandmother for his marriage. He said, "I am sure you know Vidyanath Bhattacharya. His family is good and quite well off. Thus it will be a suitable match for you. Most importantly, this girl is as qualified as she is beautiful." On his side, Bhattacharya will make no conditions regarding the marriage of his daughter with Brajanath. He is ready to marry her in whichever way you desire. Hearing this proposal, Brajanath's grandmother became exhilarated, but Brajanath felt dissatisfied within his heart. Alas, he thought, my grandmother is arranging my marriage while I am planning to leave my family and the world. How can I feel happy to discuss marriage at this time? Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving us the reality of Indian life. For Westerners, it might seem a little strict, but this is totally how Indian life works. Indian family life has nothing to do with the romantic impressions between a young boy and a young girl. That's not even considered. It's only whether the family, etc., and the duty of the son and daughter. Later, there was an intense struggle of arguments and counter-arguments in their home regarding marriage. Brajanath's mother, grandmother, and the other elderly ladies were on one side, while on the other, completely alone, was Brajanath. The ladies insisted in various ways that Brajanath should get married, but he did not agree. The discussion continued the entire day. Around evening time, it began to rain heavily and kept pouring throughout the night, so that Brajanath could not go to Mayapur. The next day, because of the heated arguments about marriage, he could not even eat his meals properly. In the evening, he went to Babaji's cottage. He paid obeisances and sat down close to Babaji, who said, "Yesterday night it was raining quite heavily. That's probably why you couldn't come. Seeing you today gives me much happiness." Brajanath said, "Prabhu, I am facing a problem which I will tell you about later. First, please explain to me, if the jiva is a pure spiritual entity, how did he become entangled in this miserable material world?" What a great question. I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur has arranged for Brajanath not to see Babaji for 48 hours, so Brajanath can think more deeply about the subject matter. These subject matters are very profound. They need 1 or 2 days for it to really soak in, so to speak, and absorb the topic. And now again, Brajanath is fresh and he's ready to approach it again. Babaji smiled and said, Swaruparthaya hinan nija shuka paran Krishna vimukhan. Harer maya dandyan guna nigara jalai kalayati. Tata stulai lingai dvi vidha vaharanai klesha nikarai maha karmalanai nayati patitan swarga nirayo. Dasmula 6. By his original nature, the jiva is an eternal servant of Krishna. This is so important. This is so pivotal. Every single word and letter we have to consider very, very deeply. I'll read it again. By his original nature, the jiva is an eternal servant of Krishna. His Swarup Dham is to serve Sri Krishna. Bhagavan's bewildering energy, Maya, punishes those jivas who are bereft of that Swarup Dham. These jivas are diverted from Krishna and are concerned with their own happiness. That's what I described about those other religions. They're concerned primarily with their own happiness. That's what those religions are concerned with. That's what they talk about. That's what they preach about, their own happiness. They have it in altruistic language, like the happiness of the world. We want the poor people to be happy, etc. But it's really all focusing on happiness in this material world. It's not happiness beyond. It's not happiness with that transcendental aspect of my nature. It's not that connecting, that yeyatma suprasidati we discussed before. These jivas are diverted from Krishna and are concerned with their own happiness. She binds them in the ropes of the three modes of material nature, sattva, raja, and tama, covers their swarup with gross and subtle bodies, throws them into the miserable bondage of karma, thus repeatedly causing them to experience happiness and distress in heaven and hell. So don't forget that the heavenly worlds also, it's called Bhoga Yoni. Yoni means species. Bhoga means pleasure. The Swagaloka is inhabited by Bhoga Yonis. That's species that will enjoy those subtle opulences of Swarga. They're not sold out devotees. They call for Bhagavan and they're performing Vishnu's service in maintaining this universe. But as far as their bhakti is concerned, they're limited by the desire for Brahman realization, which is what Brihaspati, he's the Guru I've said before, he has that Brahman realization. So that's their limit of. And then the lower hellish planets, they're called Papa Yoni, the sinful species. We are called Karma Yoni here, the species of karma. We engage in karma. It's only from this planet, this planetary system, the Earth planet, where you can springboard to the spiritual world. You can't go from the spiritual world from Swagaloka. You don't have the adhikar in Swagaloka. You're encased in a mood of dharma, your material dharma, to supporting the workings of this universe. And occasionally you see Vishnu when you want something. Again, it's like a conditioned prayer, and Vishnu will appear and help you. When the devas are in trouble from the demons, etc., they'll call for Krishna, or they'll go to the ocean of milk, etc. They'll petition Krishna. So again, it's a mood of petitioning Krishna, not a mood of serving Krishna. Indra is always concerned. He's the king of the devas, and he's always concerned with maintaining his kingship over and above his actual mood of devotion. We see so many escapades, we can say, of Indra in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So many difficulties he gets himself into because of his attachment to that kingship. And that's his dharma, that's his adhikar. He's supposed to be, because he has a duty to perform. He has to keep all the other devas. We have to have air. Vayu Dev has to be there. Agni Dev has to be there. Varuna Dev has all these other devas. Surya Dev, etc. These are all mighty devas, and they're all performing mighty tasks in this material universe. But the level of their bhakti is limited. This is what I'm saying clearly. And in Papa Yoni, well, they're just living the fruits of their sinful life. So causing them to experience happiness and distress in heaven and hell. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this Dasamula only described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He is the one who's being empowered and inspired, we can say. Not even inspired, he's acting as an instrument. This book, we can't even call it, it's a granta. It's a spiritual book, and it's aparushaya. It's not written by men. We glorify Bhaktivinoda Thakur as the author, but it's not man-made. It's not man. It's like Vedavyas. The scriptures were not written by men. They're aparushaya. Parush means man. They're aparush, not written by man. This is not written by man. This is written by, this is inspired by those great sadhus and saints who are empowered with transcendence. And they are injecting this into these pages. It's a pure Shastra. So this Dasmula has come from there, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the one who has taken responsibility for capturing that Dasmula and giving it to us in this form. Now we start. Innumerable jivas appear from Sri Baladev Prabhu to serve Vrindavan Bihari Sri Krishna as his eternal associates in Goloka Vrindavan. That is the first type of jiva. Actually, this one sentence runs itself into two, but two types of jivas are described. One in Goloka Vrindavan from Baladev, and the next from Sri Sankarshan. The others appear from Sri Sankarshan to serve the Lord of Vaikuntha, Sri Narayan, in the spiritual sky. Understand this very clearly. You can make a note of it. There's two types of spiritual jivas. One in Goloka Vrindavan from Balaram, and one in Vaikuntha from Sri Sankarshan. Don't forget this. It's going to ride throughout the whole chapter. You should know this clearly, because there's going to be three types of jivas going to be described. These are the first two. So you have to get that absolutely rock solid. So Baladev, and don't forget, where is Baladev manifesting from?
Vrindavan.
Huh?
In Vrindavan.
He's manifesting from Swarup Shakti.
Oh, very easy.
He's Sandini Shakti. He's the Ishtadev of Sandini Shakti. He's not Sandini Shakti itself. He's the Ishtadev. He's the representative of Sandini Shakti. What does Sandini Shakti mean? It means all existence. So from Baladev, the existence of those jivas in Goloka Vrindavan is coming from him. He is manifesting all the bodies, Nanda Baba, Yashoda, the cowherd boys, everyone except the gopis. The gopis' bodies, etc., have come directly from Sri Radhika. They are Radhika Kaya Vyuha. This was described in the end of the 14th chapter. But all the other bodies of the cows, the trees, the whole backdrop of Vrindavan is all manifesting from the Sandini. Sandini means existence. So anything that has existence is coming from the Sandini Shakti. And the Ishtadev of the Sandini Shakti is Baladev Prabhu. That means he's representing existence in a sense. And that Sandini Shakti has manifested from where? It's manifested from Swarup Shakti. Three Shaktis coming from Swarup Shakti: Sandini, Samvit, and Hladini. So this is about the Sandini Shakti, Baladev Prabhu.
Maharaj, Nanda Baba and Yashoda, they're also
Coming, of course, they have existence, they have bodies.
no, they're from Baldev Prabhu.
Yes.
Yashoda, she's not from Radhika.
Huh?
Yashoda is not from Radhika.
No, she's not from Radhika. Only the gopis. Radhika only wants to please Krishna in conjugal relationships. So she needs assistance for that, because Krishna has such an enormous ability to actually enjoy so many different emotions simultaneously. So for Krishna's pleasure, she manifests all the gopis in service to Krishna. All of the gopis, the Sambhog Ichamayi in particular, they are all manifesting. They're all ragatmika. They're all eternally full of rag to serve Krishna in conjugal ras. Baladev is producing the cows, everybody else, all the background. That's in Goloka Vrindavan. And then in Vaikuntha, then this has all been, all the personalities there, their bodies are all manifesting from Baladev, from Sankarshan.
We have Swamsha, we have Vibhinamsha.
Yeah.
So this is under which group? Innumerable jivas appear from Sri Baldev Prabhu.
Vibhinamsa.
Vibhinam.
Jiva
Except-
means Vibhinamsha.
Huh?
Jiva means Vibhinamsha.
Yes, in this case, yes. But not from Radhika. They are like Swamsa because they're coming directly from her body.
Answered last.
Yes. We've read that already.
Vishnu and Lakshmi.
Huh?
Vishnu and Lakshmi.
Vishnu and Lakshmi.
Okay.
Narayana and Lakshmi. From
They're Swamshas.
Narayan is Swamsa. Lakshmi Dev originally is coming from also Akaya Vyuha. She's also coming from Radhika to serve Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha.
That is also Swamsha.
So she also comes under that Swamsa category. Huh? Sankarshan is Baladev. There's Sri Sankarshan, then there's Maha Sankarshan, who's going to manifest the jivas in coming from Lord Narayan's glance. There's going to be three. This is what we have to really get, clearly. Eternally now, for the next paragraph, it's going to be a description of the spiritual world completely. These are the spiritual descriptions of those souls in the spiritual world. Eternally relishing rasa, engaged in the service of their worshipable Lord, they always remain fixed in their constitutional position. They can't move. They're fixed. They always strive to please Bhagavan and are always attentive to him. This includes those sevaks in Vaikuntha, as well as Goloka Vrindavan. They only know service. That's the constitution of the jiva. Jivara Swarupori Krishnera Nityada. They only know service to Krishna, manifesting from Sandini Shakti, but they're manifesting with the Chit Shakti, that Chit Shakti. They are always, because all jivas have come from Chit Shakti. From Chit Shakti is manifesting Jiva Tattva. And now we're talking about Jiva Tattva. This is the title of the chapter here, Jiva Tattva. They have no connection with the material energy. That's a fact. They have no connection with the material energy. When you read this carefully, it's just absurd to consider that the jiva can fall from this place. You can put this in the background of your mind while you're hearing this. It's just not possible to fall. They have no connection with the material energy. Therefore, they have no connection with material qualities such as envy, etc. They can't exist. They have no connection with the material energy. In fact, they do not know if there is a bewildering energy called Maya or not. It's really clear. It's really clear. I take every single word of this Jaiva Dharma with the same faith that I have when I read Srimad Bhagavatam, with the same faith that I have when I read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Every single word is completely shastric. So these jivas in Goloka Vrindavan and Vaikuntha, they don't even know. Why should they know that this inferior Maya exists? Yoga Maya will be arranging and acting all types of arrangements for Krishna's pleasure. Yoga Maya is acting, but Mahamaya, that's the Maya that he's talking about. They don't know that Mahamaya exists. That's the Maya, not Yoga Maya. It's Mahamaya. They do not know if there is a bewildering energy called Maya or not. Since they reside in the spiritual world, Maya is very far away from them and does not affect them at all. 3 sentences he said. 3 times he said that
Not affected by Maya.
they don't know if this bewildering energy exists or not. They reside in this far away from Maya. And what was the first one? There is no connection with the material energy. 3 times Bhaktivinoda Thakur sang it.
but we have different souls than those because we come from the same.
Yes, this is what we're coming to in the next paragraph. This is what I said at the beginning. I want you to understand there are 3 types of jivas. Have it very clear. The first are in Goloka Vrindavan from Baladev, the second from Sankarshan in Vaikuntha, and the third will be described in the next paragraph. It's very distinct. Don't blur them together. Always absorbed in the bliss of serving their worshipable Lord, they are eternally liberated and are free from material happiness and distress. Very, very clear. Then their life is love alone, and they're not even conscious of misery, death, or fear. I was taking darshan of Lord Jagannath a few weeks ago, and I had the experience that Lord Jagannath was just radiating love alone. And when I was looking at him, I was remembering this description of the spiritual residents. They're only conscious of love. And like when you see Lord Jagannath, he's so powerful because the Rath carts on the return journey, they spent 4 days outside the Singadvaha gate. So we could go regularly and have darshan of Lord Jagannath. And his mood, his potency, and millions, literally, of pilgrims, yatris, they realize that same dynamic and quality of love. And they're all rushing to have his darshan. So he reciprocates with all those personalities. Why do as many as 8 million people attend Rath Yatra? Because they know he's God. Because they get that same sense of radiating love. Only love. No judgments, no mental, no nothing, not this, not that. Only pure, pure love. This is the nature of the spiritual world. So this is the first paragraph.
Does the mood, like for Rasa Vichar, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was seeing Jagannath, he saw him as Rajendra Nandan.
Shyam Sundar, yeah.
So when he's in Sri Mandir, will he have that same mood of Rajendra Nandan?
Yes, always, always. He never even saw Baladeva and Subhadra. He only saw him as Rajendra Nandan Shyam Sundar. But we, conditioned souls, we see him as the Lord of the universe. That's his name, Jagannath. But the same quality of love to our adhikar we will experience. If you're a Premi Bhakta, you'll see him as Rajendra Nandan Shyam Sundar. If you're just a fallen ant-like devotee like me, you'll see him as Lord Jagannath and the greatest Lord of the universe. Now, this is the second. So I don't want to go too quickly here. I really want you to catch this absolutely significantly. I can always read it again tomorrow. There are also innumerable atomic conscious jivas, innumerable atomic conscious. 3 descriptions of innumerable. That means unlimited, atomic, very small, and conscious. They have consciousness. Jivas who emanate as rays in Karnadakshay Mahavishnu's glance upon his Maya Shakti. We know this, we've described it, is like Jiva Shakti. When Karnadakshay Vishnu, he glances towards Mahamaya. And that glance is one of attraction to Mahamaya. And Ramadevi, the consort of Mahavishnu, she sees her master's desire. So she manifests as that glance to come in to impregnate Mahamaya. And that glance is carried by Sadashiva, Shambhu. That glance is carried and it's impregnated actually into the wife of Shivji, Durga Ma. It's called the Udara Shakti. That's the womb of Durga Ma. And that glance is impregnated by Shambhu. That's why we see the phallic symbol and the yoni. This is the cosmic manifestation. And that glance is carried within the womb of the Pradhan. The pradhan is the unconglomerate, it's called soup, or all the elements mixed up. They're not cohesive yet. Just like in the womb of a mother, before she's impregnated with the seed of the father, everything is there in the embryo, in potential, but it's all a mess, so to speak. I'm just saying it simply. It's probably a doctor could describe it differently. But it's unformed, this pradhan. But when the seed comes in, then it becomes cohesive. Then the embryo begins to be formed. Because why? Within the seed is carried the jiva, that is the single hiranyagarbha, or the amalgamated form of the jiva. All the jivas in existence, innumerable billions of jivas. That means all the ants, the trees, the mountains, every single movable living entity are all amalgamated into a single jiva, entering through the glance with the element of time. Because if time is not there, there's no time in the material world. We live our lives according to our past and our future, etc. And we have the present. In the spiritual world, where we've just described, there's no such thing as time. There's no past or future in the spirit. We can't understand this. That's why nobody here and nobody listening can never at the end of a few weeks studying this say, oh yes, I understand Jiva Tattva. No. Nobody understands Jiva Tattva because they don't understand the nature of eternality. We have had no experience whatsoever of anything that's eternal. Have we?
But
Nothing.
We are eternal.
Huh?
But we are eternal.
But we are eternal at the same time, but we have no experience of that externally in our lives. Nothing in this world is eternal. So we can't relate to what is not. So therefore, tell the material mind to shut up and just listen to the spiritual truths and hear the spiritual truths and wait for the mercy of the Guru Parampara to give us appreciation and realization of these truths. We can't use our tiny material brains. They are still linga sarir. They are still the three material elements. So we're not going from there. We're going from the place of avaroha panta, of bowing to receive the kripa, principally from Guru. And Guru is the representative of all the Guru Parampara. He's the spokesman for everybody in the Parampara. So clear this picture. Oh yes, so then the jiva and time enter the womb, and then it's described in the Bhagavatam how time agitates the three modes of material nature. And then from here, the Mahatattva is manifested. And then from the Mahatattva, all of the material worlds, the higher, middle, and lower planetary systems, etc., are going to be manifested. But this is the initial infusion. This is the initial conception. It's very remarkable because it's just like the conception that we have in the material world of conceiving a child, etc. It's the same principle. It's the impregnation. But it's just interesting to note how powerful this glance is from Mahavishnu. It's so powerful that it's going to ignite this whole material manifestation. That's Mahavishnu's glance. Who is Mahavishnu? He's a plenary expansion coming from Brajendranandan Shyam-Sundar. So what about his glance? What sort of power does his glance contain? And what sort of power would Swarup Shakti's glance contain? This is the glance. If this is the result of just Mahavishnu's glance, what sort of result will there be from Radha and Krishna's glancing at one another? Try to appreciate the reality of this.
Maya Shakti of Karuna, actually Mahavishnu, who is it Lakshmi?
You have to speak really clearly and really loudly so I can hear you.
Who is Maya Shakti? Who mentioned when he glanced upon his Maya Shakti.
Yes, that's Mahamaya.
Mahamaya, but not Mahalakshmi.
No. Mahamaya. He glances, he's there. See the picture. It's been painted already. You know, the painting is there. He's lying in the causal ocean and he's glancing at Mahamaya with attraction. My Gurudev has described this actually is indicative of some type of contamination within Mahavishnu, that he should do like this. There's some connection with the material energy here, because the transcendental personalities we just read, they have no connection with Maya at all. So there is some connection there from Mahavishnu into this world, because he's looking with attraction to Mahamaya. And Ramadevi, his consort, appreciates that and takes that glance, that look, and she impregnates the material womb, the pradhan, and then it becomes the prakriti.
But she's not his wife.
No.
Why he's looking at
Because she's Mahamaya.
her? She's his Mahamaya.
She's attractive.
She's his Mahamaya.
She's very attractive. She's very attractive. Mahamaya is very attractive. Mahavishnu is looking at Mahamaya.
His wife is also his Shakti.
Huh?
Is also Shakti.
Yes, Mahavishnu is very attractive. And he has his consort. I don't know the answer to that, really.
Okay.
Actually.
It's difficult, I guess.
I'll think about it. I have thought about
But
it.
it's not Mahalakshmi.
But this is, no, I would say clearly, Prabhu, this is for pastime's sake. If Mahavishnu, that transcendental entity, doesn't, someone has to connect to ignite this material explosion, we can say, of the cosmic manifestation. Some spiritual potency has, that spiritual potency, the medium, is Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu is the medium to ignite this whole cosmic manifest. He's the one who's glancing. Mahavishnu. He's the first of the Purusha avatars. So this is Krishna's arrangement. There has to be a stream of spiritual transcendence to begin this. It can't begin from matter. It's like if we impregnate a child, it has to be coming from a living conscious source. So the highest Chid Shakti, to manifest this into the Jiva Shakti, it has to be coming from that highest source. But the answer to your question about why does he look at Mahavishnu, Mahamaya, is because of Leela, or the Lord's arrangement. How else can this whole world begin? It has to begin from a transcendental place, because ultimately everything is connected to Krishna. There's no other way that it could actually manifest. It has to start from a spiritual point. There has to be that spiritual
Between
Mahavishnu and Mahamaya.
Mahavishnu
Huh?
and Mahamaya.
Loudly.
Between Mahavishnu and Mahamaya, Lingam. Maybe Lingam all do it, please.
Lingam? No, no, no.
He's
No.
telling Shambhu.
Some,
No, no.
no?
No, no, no. Shambhu is described as the halo of the glance. The glance is actually the embodiment from Ramadevi, the light. But Mahavishnu, he carries the light. Mahavishnu is not that glance. Shambhu himself is not that glance, because that glance is coming from a higher Mahavishnu. The glance is coming from Mahavishnu. He is connected to Lord Narayan. Lord Narayan, by the way, has nothing to do with this at all. Lord Narayan is manifesting these three Purusha avatars: Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu. He's manifesting that. But it is Mahavishnu, separately from Lord Narayan, who is going to touch this Mahamaya, this illusory energy. We've just read 3 sentences where these entities in the spiritual world don't even know Maya exists. They don't come near it. It has nothing to do with their engagement in service. Isn't that a wonderful thought? To go into the spiritual world and never to have any form of Maya touch us in any sense at all?
Bhadrajiva can become like that.
Nitya, yes.
It's kind of impossible metaphysics. Because
Huh? Loudly.
Impossible metaphysics, because I don't
No, no, we don't use logic.
Yeah.
Bhagavan can give imperfect energy which creates imperfect things, but that's already.
But he doesn't, not in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, everything is perfect. This is what we can't understand, you see. And this is why we try and say, oh, we fell from there, because we don't appreciate sufficiently the perfectness that is possible. Krishna's world is perfect, the spiritual world. It's nothing to do with this material world at all. Maya doesn't even exist. But during the creation, there has to be some connection. So Mahavishnu is that medium, just like Sankaracharya. He comes into this world, right? He's an empowered personality to do so many activities to connect again the jivas back with their correct path, even though he's preaching something different or lower. So it may appear like that. It may appear, why is Mahavishnu looking at, Mahamaya? But actually we see this quite repeatedly, because even Krishna, when he begins the Ras Leela, he's inspired by Chandradev, who seems to be looking in the eastern horizon, which is not his wife. It's actually the wife representative of Indra, and he's coloring her with kumkum. So we get this overlap, we can say, or what we would say transgression of material dharma. Because material dharma, if we're in the conditioned state, has to be followed completely. It can't be fractured or broken. But at the same time, when we come into the realm of rasa, then that can be transgressed. Okay, I'm going to stop here. And the rest of it becomes so ecstatic. Believe me, this is a really beautiful chapter. I love it. If we want,
one question.
quickly then, speak loudly.
The first, there are three types of jivas.
Yes,
One jiva appears from the Baladev
yes,
in the
Goloka Vrindavan.
to serve the Lord
Yes,
Krishna.
yes.
The second is from
Vaikuntha,
Sankarshana
yes.
to serve the Lord in
Yes.
Vaikuntha.
Sankarshan and Baladev are the same.
Yeah, I can. Then the third jivas,
They are coming from Mahasankarshan.
what for to serve whom?
They are serving Maya Devi.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
That's actually what they want to do. They don't want to serve Krishna. This is what's all going to be explained. They turn away from Krishna. These third types of jiva, they're not looking to serve Krishna. They turn away. They're called vimukh. They turn away from Krishna. We'll discuss this tomorrow.
Okay, that's what I did.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good question. Jai Vedama ki Jai, Jiva Tattva ki Jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai, Gop Premanandi, Vansha Kalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhaveva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnave Vyo Namaha.